Good afternoon. What a pleasure and honor to be with all of you, and I can feel the electricity of all those brains and neurons right here, and I need them. Thank you. I'm here to talk to you about collaboration. They invited me to speak about collaboration, and the truth is that I spent about 60 hours preparing a different presentation for today. And about 2 weeks ago, I had a great conversation with Ryan Merkley, and he says, Tonya, what are you actually passionate about? What are you passionate about right now? And if you know anything about me, you'll know that at core to who I am, I'm not just passionate, I'm enraged by the inability of us to collaborate. I'm enraged by our absolute desire for change, but our complete inability to get it together to make the change. And so my life has really been dedicated to trying to come up with new ways, new models, new strategies to figure out how we can get beyond our own individual self-interest to a place where we can identify the converging interests which will leverage social innovation. In my story, along the way, I've had a little bit too long working on different initiatives to try to bring about those collaborations. So this is not actually my community garden, but many, many years ago I started with building a community garden in North Toronto, and this was a great experience working with very, very grassroots people to look at how do you create, a real thing in a real park. That's my son, Ethan. And that's the picture I wanted to start with because, of course, it makes me happy. He's 8 now. One of the opportunities, the privileges that I had was to work with an incredible group of mostly women with the Canadian Partnership for Children's Health and the Environment. And with KIPCHI, we called it KIPCHI, we really developed some very, very innovative governance models, ways of working together across childcare, healthcare, environment, looking at how do we bring about toxics policy reform. So Amanda's workshop or presentation was very, very inspiring. And this is a street party. This is a picture of an event that happens on Ridley Garden every year, and this is the aftermath of a killer balloon fight, water balloon fight, where we had probably 100 kids whipping balloons at each other. And this is, for me, one of the biggest and most amazing types of collaboration. As we've gone global, and we understand all of the sort of global connectedness of us, I think that there's a really important social innovation trend which is bringing us back to the importance of local. And this is, to me, some of the most exciting things that are happening online are the ways that we're able to get from that global communities of interest piece to really finding each other and developing those communities of interest in communities of place. Most of you know me through my work with the Center for Social Innovation. You heard a little bit about what we do at the center. Oop, one step too far. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing at CSI. And I'm clicking, I swear I am. Ultimately, we know that we need to fix our future and that the issues that we face as a society are well beyond our capacity to be able to influence or change them at an individual level. Ultimately, if we're going to fix our future, we must figure out a way to work together both in small groups and as societies in order to bring about the change we want to see. I believe that collaboration is the DNA of innovation. So today, I'm going to speak to you about one of the tools that I've discovered in the last few months and tell you a story about how we've been able to buy a building at Bathurst and Bloor, from being a very, very small, little tiny organization at 215 Spadina in Margie Zeidler's beautiful building, to now being a landlord and a building owner and having gone from having 0 assets to now sitting on a $6.5 million debt. But don't tell anybody. I'm going to talk to you about community bonds. Community bonds, for me, and I brought my definitional page here so I didn't get it wrong. Community bonds are loans that provide both a social and financial return on investment and enable communities to leverage their constituents' financial resources to create the spaces and programs that will enable them to thrive. Now, why am I excited about community bonds? Ultimately, what excites me most is that so many of the projects that we start, that we get excited about in our work, we get running and we get those ideas and we're like running and they're great ideas, they're fantastic, and then we realize we have no money. And we need the capital injection into our idea to be able to make it happen. And I can't tell you how many of these projects die on the vine because we haven't come up with solid business models to support the social change that we want to see. So for me, what was exciting about the community bond is that it completely undermined our existing approaches to finance. And I said, what would happen if we were to start leveraging the real assets that we have? CSI didn't have a single asset when we went to go buy this building, but what we did have were these incredible networks and relationships. They say that a powerful, that's a different slide than what I'm supposed to have. They say that a powerful social innovation shifts a system, transforms a marketplace, changes a behavior, and creates social value. I would argue that community bonds do that and much more. They also are a kick-ass tool for the citizen sector. They connect citizens and the commons in a way that we've never done before. And they empower communities to create their own solutions. I think this is how capitalism was supposed to work. So just to give you a little bit of background, most of you, how many people actually are familiar with the Center for Social Innovation? Oh, wow, great. Oh, and that's a call out to everybody at CSI. I feel your energy. Woohoo! The Center for Social Innovation is in and of itself an experiment in collaboration. We bring together over 200 social mission organizations into a shared space, everything from arts to social purpose business to environmental groups to people who are working on reforming the education system. You name it, we're bringing them together. If you want to change the world, you've got a home at the Center for Social Innovation. But then what we do is we leverage that space that we've got, and we've turned it into a community center where we have over 300 events a year hosted in the space and have over 20,000 people through the space on an annual basis. And ultimately, what we're really focusing on is how are we supporting and catalyzing the social innovations that we think are going to have world-changing potential. This is the building that we bought. Yay. Yeah. Okay, we didn't raise $1 billion for maternal health. I'm not quite that good, but this is our new building. We're most excited about it. CSI Annex is a 36,000 square foot space located at Bathurst and Bloor, and it's just an absolutely amazing warehouse building, and we're planning to fill it with over 300 organizations that are working for social change. These are some pictures of the building in its current state. You can see we're planning to open in about 15 days. It doesn't look much different than this photo right here. So let me just take you quickly through the deal structure, because I think it's interesting, and I'd like you to be able to say when you walk out of today that you've been able to understand and have a new tool to take you and guide you in your work. The value of the deal was $6.5 million in both the cost of the property and the upgrades. Turning an old building into a green building is proving itself to be more expensive than we expected. What we had to do as an organization with literally no financial assets to show is we needed to leverage those social networks. And the first place that we went was actually to the City of Toronto. City of Toronto, their economic development and their culture divisions have been incredibly supportive of the work that the center has done. And when we asked if we could get them to give us a loan guarantee, to be honest, the person I asked didn't know that they could do that, but in fact they can, and they do, and they did. And the support from the city was spectacularly important for us being able to take that loan guarantee to a bank or credit union to be able to get our better deal. So we had a bit of a competition amongst the different banking institutions, and Alterna Credit Union was able to give us a very, very competitive mortgage, which, with the loan guarantee, saved us about $200,000 a year from regular if we hadn't had the loan guarantee. So that was the money that we needed for the 75% of the value of the project. But we still needed to raise $2 million. And the real challenge was, how do you do that before the building closes? We had less than 6 months to do this. So let me just take you through what a community bond is. Community bond is a debt instrument. As a not-for-profit social enterprise, we cannot issue equity. However, we can issue debt, which means we needed loans. What we were able to do, because a mortgage is an RSP-eligible investment, we were able to make the investment an RSP-eligible loan. So now, what we're doing is we've raised over $1.8 million, and we're still raising the balance of the community bonds with a 4% return offered to our investors over a 5-year term. These investments are secured against the value of the property, and gratefully, the cost of the building was expensive, but downtown Toronto real estate is also expensive. So let me just explain to you how it works. This is Annie Investor, and Annie things that she's very impressed with what the Center for Social Innovation does, and what she says is, you know what we're going to do is I'd like to make an investment. I'd like to buy one of your bonds. So she takes $10,000 out of her existing RSP or a new contribution, and she puts that $10,000 into a self-directed RRSP. Now, just so you know, many of jurisdictions around the world have retirement savings programs akin to this. So in the US, it's a 401k. Our lovely government folks, once you put a contribution in, you get a decent rebate back, depending on your income level. So ultimately, the RRSP is able to buy the community bond that the Center for Social Innovation issues. This bond generates a 4% return that goes back into the RRSP and develops as a savings program. And we take that money and we build a better community. I kind of want to ask if everybody understood that, but I guess that's bad, eh? Yeah. Ultimately, I think that what we've done with this tool is really not just about what the Center for Social Innovation has done. It's really about what other communities and other projects can do. I believe that the community bond is a new model, a new way of leveraging our networks and our communities to be able to invest in the projects that are important to us at a local level. Ultimately, I believe that they're citizens transforming capitalism to serve people and the planet. Imagine, just imagine, if, oh, you can't see that, oh, you can, but I can't. Just imagine if small towns across Canada and across the United States could actually be able to leverage audiences to create new performing art spaces across the country. Imagine if hockey moms were a part of financing the development of rec centers and hockey rinks across our fine country. Imagine how communities would be able to create everything from rec centers to daycare programs to senior care. You name it, we could do it. And ultimately, it's about taking our relationship, our greatest asset, which is the asset of ourselves in relationship to the community, and turning that into monetizing those relationships. I would be a liar if I said that this was easy. One of the challenges, there are many, many challenges. I guess when you are trying to develop something new, you meet up with resistance after resistance. And some of the challenges that we've faced in developing the community bond idea, and really, it's been tried in many, many different ways and different strategies. And I think we're really one of the first who's brought together the different components of this. But we see the wind turbine down at the waterfront, 450 shares that were issued and co-owners of that wind turbine. We're seeing organizations like Monforte Dairy who are issuing cheese futures. I happen to be a cheese future owner. And it's good cheese. The West End Food Co-op issuing $100 bonds to be able to help build their natural food co-op in Parkdale. Some of the challenges that I think we're facing and looking at how do we leverage this, how do we scale a community bond in Canada, I think we have to first start talking to Amanda, who can help us work with government. Ultimately, I think this is a tremendous opportunity for government to be able to help clarify the rules and enable and sort of create a path for other organizations to follow, to be able to help us to understand what would we need to do to be able to leverage this tool and make it available to community groups and citizens groups and nonprofits across the province and across the country. I think the government would need to look at how they look at the Ontario Securities Regulator. I think they need to look at their own rules and regulations around investment procedures. And I don't think it's about making this an easy thing. I think it's really about making sure that there's clarity about what we can and cannot do. But this is an inversion of our existing thinking around financial institutions. So much of what we've done in our financing world has been very hierarchical with power structures that are really not democratized. This is the first time that we're trying to really put power into the hands of people on the ground. But we also need some help from our banks and our financial institutions. This is an incredible opportunity for the right financial institutions to get on side. This is well beyond CSR, corporate social responsibility. This is about how are corporate citizens actually engaging in creating the solutions for tomorrow. I think there's phenomenal opportunity, but we've really met resistance because our model is new, and new means risk, and banks aren't particularly good at risk. So we've really been looking at, and as we try to complete our own bond offering, One of the things that we've been looking for is a financial partner who will be able to understand what we're trying to do and can make this a much, much smoother process so that it's not so red tape laden to be able to get community bonds into communities. Ultimately, the real challenge is for you. Community bonds are a good idea, I think, but I'll tell you something, they're useless. They're absolutely useless if we don't have civic entrepreneurs like you, agents of change like you, proving that they can work. All day, we've heard great ideas about how you can make the change you want. Amanda's given you some great tools. I've given you another tool. And really, the real question is going to be, what do you do when you walk out of here? Have you got the energy, the drive? Have you got the business model, the savvy? Have you got the ability to take your idea and turn it into action? A community bond is just a tool. It's a potentially powerful tool to leverage all of those Twitter feeds, all those social networks. But really, what are those good for? Unless we're able to transform those social networks into solid strategies and action on the ground, we're only just touching the surface. Real social change is about you. It's about your ideas. It's about your cleverness. It's about your energy. It's about your drive. You'll never do it alone. No great person has ever achieved success alone. Ultimately, community bonds are just a tool. They're just a tool to be able to help figure out how we can engage with each other to make the change that we want to see in the world. I believe we need to buy local. We need to buy community bonds. I hope that you've enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much.